Thank you so much for being here, and I'm going to pass it to the Giveffect team. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jessica, for the introduction. And thank you so much, Jessica Roxanne, Habitat Florida, for having us today and for everyone also joining this session. We are so excited. Today, we are going to be diving into the 2026 online fundraising playbook for Habitat affiliates. But before we jump in, just again, a couple more things about ourselves. My name is Yulia Zharnavaya. As Jessica mentioned, I'm a head of growth at Giveffect. I've been personally with Giveffect for almost 5 years and been extremely fortunate to work. I work with all the type of nonprofits in the United States, but I've been fortunate to work specifically with Habitat affiliates and also went to many different conferences, West Coast, Midwest. I did miss last Florida conference. My colleague was there, but I'm hoping to get back next time. And today I am so excited to share a lot of industry data information that can help you to establish or pivot your 2026 fundraising strategy. And I'm joined by my colleague, Hannah Fox. Hannah, I'll pass it to you to just share a little bit more about yourself.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. I'm Hannah Fox. I'm the customer experience manager here at Giveffect. I work really closely with our client success team and also Habitat affiliates, all things from helping them grow their fundraising strategy, optimizing peer-to-peer pages, volunteer engagement, all the things. But because I'm really working closely with teams every day, I get a front row seat to see what's actually driving results, what's helping. So today I'm really excited to share a few of those strategies that we see consistently increasing online revenue for affiliates. And I'm actually located in Florida today. So for all the Florida people here today, I'm in the St. Pete, Tampa area.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Hannah. And before we jump in, I just wanted to share a couple of things about GiveEffect for those who are maybe not familiar. So we are a 10-in-1 CRM platform with all the tools for donor, volunteer, email, grant, and so on management. So all the teams from development to community engagement to marketing can work together to achieve financial stability, growth, and better serve the community. But technology changed all the time. We are living in a AI world, and who knows what's going to happen in a few years. I'm just joking. But it's not only about the technologies. What actually makes us stand out is our support for our client community. We pride ourselves in support. We know that technology is only as good as people who use it. So we really put a lot of emphasis into support, resources dedicated, account manager, and sessions like this where we can share our knowledge from the industry, but also from the affiliates that we have over 10 years experience of working with. So with this being said, let's dive in. Again, today we're talking about the 2026 online fundraising playbook for Habitat affiliates. As Jessica mentioned, this session is going to be about 45 minutes presentation, and then we are hoping to secure about 10 minutes at the end for your questions. But please don't wait till the last minute. As we go through the presentation, please feel free to post your questions into the chat, and we will make sure we address or try to address all of them before the end of today's session. And for today, just so you know, we are going to be exploring 6 main fundraising, giving and fundraising trends that we see in the industry. Of course, there's like so much more. We probably can spend the whole day talking about fundraising and 2026 strategy, but we narrowed it down to 6 main trends that we see and going to present to all of you today. So let's dive in. First and foremost, we wanted to start with a foundational trend, right? And let's talk a little bit about just overall giving trends. I'm sure a lot of you already have been seen this data and been exposed to this data, but I think it's important to kind of recap and set the tone, right, for the rest of this webinar of where we are right now is the industry and what we see across the network that we serve. So according to the Giving USA 2024 report, giving, reaching the highest levels. So giving is rebounded. There is a lot of donors, but they are selective. Overall, giving in 2024 grew by 6%, which is very encouraging. But at the same time, the second statistic that you can see on the screen was quite. All right, I was muted for a second, but here I am back. So while giving overall is growing, online revenue growth in 2024 was only 2%. So while we have all the technology, we're talking about donation optimization and so on, it's only been 2% increase. And interestingly, one-time gifts are being flat. What's driving the growth for the past couple of years is recurring giving. And we're going to talk about it in just a second. And last but not least, average one-time gift currently is about $128. So very interesting to kind of see. Again, it's a benchmark for you to take a look. What is it at your affiliate, and for us to also, compare it's how affiliates that we serve are doing on that end. So that's kind of very big picture fundraising trends that we see in the industry. And Hannah, I'm curious how affiliates that are using Giveffect and in our network, how do they do?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited to start off with something so foundational. When we look specifically at the Habitat affiliates that we serve, here are a couple things that really stand out. So, in 2025, across all of our affiliates, the average gift size was around $160.
All
So,
right.
just a little bit above that industry benchmark. And some things that I hear in the conversations that I have are just that frictionless giving is really, really important. So we want to make it as easy as possible for donors to give, whether that's making the navigation of your website really simple, the donation form itself really easy and accessible, making the donate button huge, large on your website, easy to find. But I think it doesn't stop there. An easy donation page is fantastic. It certainly is a really important part of it. But I think where it can fall flat is in terms of storytelling. So we have a little bit less than half, about 40% of our affiliates who are using descriptions on their donation pages for giving levels. But what's super interesting is that when descriptions are used, so you're tying impact to the actual donation, that average donation size increases by 20%. This just, again, helps, of course, tie the donation to the impact. I'm really excited to share more in just a few moments. But it's just, going to give you some real world examples here. But I think that it can change the entire feel of the donation page because again, it is really showing donors where their impact is seen. And speaking of that and storytelling, we also see that campaign pages increase conversion. At Giveffect, a campaign page is a standalone landing page that's really customizable for nonprofits that take it just a step further than just a donate button. So as you can see here, a campaign page is going to give you a really strong opportunity to lean into storytelling. And often we see that these pages are actually increasing conversion. So really, really fantastic. And I'm excited to share just a few more concrete examples and recommendations. So first off, of course, use descriptions. As I mentioned, that 20% increase is huge. And if you look at some of our affiliates, you're going to see these great examples of giving levels. Instead of just saying, here's $100 on your donation page, they say $100 is providing a kitchen sink. So it's helping donors really understand where their donation is going and also putting that measurable impact on their gift. And I think this really shifts the donor's mindset from being a little transactional to more transformational. Like donors are giving to make a difference. And so it's important to really tell them what that impact is. So I think this is just a really low-hanging fruit, easy way to enhance and optimize your donation page. It takes a few seconds to really put in those impact statements, but once you do, you're going to see those big results. The second strategy that I have is really related back to those campaign pages. So creating campaigns that you can use year after year. This is not only going to take some of the pressure off of your team. So instead of having to reinvent the wheel each season, you're refining and you're strengthening something that already works. I think, this is a great example here, this annual appeal. It gives really clear information, and it also has strong imagery. And this is building consistency again with your supporters every year when they know that they're going to see this annual appeal roll around. They know what it is, they're familiar with it, and it's going to really create that familiarity, which is then creating the trust aspect. So I think it's a really powerful, easy way, and it also similarly enhances your ability to tell the story of what your mission is. So again, this campaign page, as you can see here, it's not just a checkout flow. Iowa Valley here has a great video that really evokes emotion, shows a lot of strong storytelling elements. Who are you helping? What's the problem you're solving? Why does it matter? And these strong campaigns just really allow supporters to be able to see the story and um, really creates like an inspirational touch point rather than just this payment portal, right? So I think these are all some really strong ways that you can help increase some of your online giving.
Well, thank you, Hannah, for that. And we're going to be diving even more into giving in just a second. Our second key trend that we wanted to discuss with everyone today is recurring donors drive stability. Personally, this is one of my my favorite trends, and it's just we've seen so much growth over the past few years. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about it. So your recurring donors are fueling revenue growth right now. They're providing more reliable income stream than your one-time donors. Um, as you can see here, based on the data, we talked a little bit earlier, right, that online giving is stalled, but what is driving growth is the your sustainers or recurring monthly donors. So the data shows us that online revenue by monthly donors grow 31%, which is huge. And it makes a perfect sense because we all live in the subscription economy. I have Netflix, I have so many different subscriptions. Now we also like people are buying food subscriptions. There's so many different subscription services. Something that few years ago seemed like I don't know if how a donor will react to that. I don't know if people will be subscribing to it. Now becomes a norm, and I'm sure that all of you already started recurring donor programs to some degrees. The second great point about your recurring donors is the retention. So retention for recurring donors is 85%. That is very high in comparison to the one-time donors at 43%. 85% is fantastic number, right? And I can personally relate to that, and I'm sure a lot of you can do this as well. I personally supported a nonprofit for 3.5 years as the monthly donor, and it took me 6 months. I wanted to shift my priority and support another organization, and it took me 6 months to make the decision because it's so much easier to start something than to cancel something. It wasn't an easy decision because I've been supporting this organization for over 3 years. So it took me some time to just like pull the plug, and change my priorities. So it's really compounding effect. Your recurring donor is going to be there for 2, 3 more years, and it really helps to create that predictable revenue pipeline for the sustainable growth of your organization, or just not even the growth operation and day to day, especially in the current reality. Last but not least, What is the average donation for monthly donors? Again, let's use it as a benchmark. We see in the industry in general, it's $24 per month. So that brings the average monthly donor revenue for the year at about $288, which is twice as much as your one-time average gift at $128. So there is definitely huge opportunities in the sector. Online recurring donors has been growing for the past 2-3 years, and we'll only see this trend, growing from now on as well. But that's what we see in the industry. Hannah, what about the network that we're serving?
Yeah, absolutely. Across our network, recurring giving is almost everywhere. So all of our affiliates are offering a recurring giving option in some way. For a few, the option is small. It's just an option on their donation page, and it's a little bit secondary, but it's still an option. It's However, the majority of our affiliates, around 2/3, and where we really have seen huge success is people are promoting having a recurring giving program, and they're making it a larger part of their fundraising strategy. So they're framing this recurring giving as really a community, something like a Carpenter Club or Hopebuilders, which I'm sure are terms that you all are really familiar with. But this is something that donors can feel a part of, and that's really when we see the most impact. It's not only an increase in the number of recurring donors, but also their gift size as well, because it's something larger than just a checkbox on a donation page. We're seeing that stronger adoption because donors do feel like they're a part of a community and a part of a program. So across our affiliates, the average monthly gift is actually quite strong, around
Oh,
$60
wow.
on average. So pretty significantly higher than that industry benchmark. So I think even like a modest increase in monthly donors can translate to really meaningful revenue. If we think about 50 new donors at $60 a month, that's around $300 a month or $36,000 annually. Like that's a really large number and a large impact. So I think the opportunity is not just more donors, but it's really that more predictable revenue, especially in some of these times right now. Things are uncertain. Predictability is just becoming more and more important.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I think it's not about having like hundreds, whatever you are in your journey, I think there is still a lot can be done to grow the programs,
Mhm.
but there is really so much opportunity that we see across the board. So, a couple of things, again, depending on where you are, you might have already like huge established programs, or maybe you're just starting out. We have a couple of recommendations how to, enhance your recurring donor programs going forward. So first and foremost, I think is making your sustaining gifts a cornerstone of your strategy. So what does it mean? Of course, not every donor is going to become a sustainer donor, not going to become a monthly donor. But making sure that that information is forefront of all of your materials is extremely important. So whether, you're gonna put it on newsletter, you can have a little banner. You're gonna put it in your signature. You're gonna have it in your events or even build sites, just making sure that people know about it and they know the benefits and they know what it is, and they can make a decision if that's something that they want to support or not. But again, this is where we see so many organizations as fundraising strategies going, and there is definitely huge benefit to that. Now, something that we've seen a lot of our affiliates having success with, and we always highly recommend, is also launching a specific page that describes the benefits of your monthly giving program. In this example, it's Habitat for Humanity of Greater Palm Beach County, right? And Giveffect would have those standalone pages, but it doesn't have to be that. It can be a page on your website. It can be you can use your own technology, right? But we've definitely seen that storytelling aspect plays a huge role where you can clearly communicate what is the Hopebuilders Club, right? What is the Carpenter Club? What are the benefits? So I find this example very impactful. There is, again, very impactful image. There is a clear name of the program. And then over here, you can see there's a description. Become Hope Builder, what is it going to actually do, what levels of support, and most importantly here, and not most importantly, but I think it's very important to clearly communicate. So what are the benefits for someone to become your monthly giver or your sustainer giver? And here they have special gift, dedicated newsletter, 10% at restore off, and then recognition. So in my opinion, this is very clear communication of the benefits, and it makes it easier for donors to decide if that's something that they would like to be a part of. Then the next recommendation is also making sure, just checking your website, checking all of your materials, and making sure that the monthly given option is available across the board, right? So again, we spoke about the uh, general donate button, right? Whether you have it embedded on your website or it's page like this, doesn't really matter. Just making sure that that monthly or recurring option is available is extremely important. And again, here they have the same impact statement for the monthly giving as well, which I think make it very impactful. Last but not least, for your donate button, I saw this example. I thought it was so creative. They don't have description for every giving tier, but they specifically bring attention to this $30 monthly giving level because it's the 30 years anniversary, and they encourage their donors to sign up, to become a monthly giver at $30 to celebrate the 30th anniversary. So again, small touch, but I think it's a clever way to communicate something special to your supporters. The next couple of things is the last point I wanted to make here is that, again, we spoke about that not every donor is going to become a monthly donor. We absolutely understand that, and that's all right. But, make an effort to convert your first-time donors into your monthly donors is important. So when you have a first-time donors, making sure that with that thank you or the follow-up, you let them know that you have the option to become a monthly donor. So again, they can choose if that's something they want to consider or not. And then last but not, I actually have two more. This is a big topic. The retention. The retention we spoke about is 85%, which is extremely high, but it's not guaranteed, right? So making sure that we actually thanking monthly donor, recognizing them, following up with them, sharing, annual report, any other information with them, inviting them to special occasions and so on to make sure that, they are not just giving this donation every month, they're really true part of your community and the building block of your community. And very last thing I'm going to say is I've seen some organization also successfully upgrading monthly donors, typically at the end of the year. So let's say if you have a lot of monthly donors who are currently giving at 10, 15, $20, you name it. There is also some strategy around like year end and asking them to upgrade to the next level, let's say plus $10. But again, clearly communicating those benefits and why is important and what what will be the impact or benefit for them is extremely important in those cases. But all in all, we can talk about just this topic for honestly the whole hour. So we're gonna keep moving. But I know that everyone probably to some degree have already you already started your giving programs and so on. So if you have any best practices that you want to share, I know peer learning is so strong among Habitat affiliates. So please don't hesitate, put it in the chat if you have any, best practices around recurring gifts, anything you want to share with everyone, or if you have a question about it. But we are gonna keep going. The next topic we want to talk about is peer-to-peer fundraising, and this is another favorite of mine. So, and of course, because so many organizations, I feel like successfully do women build, pride build, faith build, you name it, right? So I think peer-to-peer is such a huge part of the Habitat community. And I love how you guys really put a lot of effort to empower your champions. But what do we see across the industry? Like few statistics benchmark for you to consider. One is 75% is the average fundraiser activation rate, right? So if we have a fundraising event, we have 100 of fundraisers, typically 75 of them will be actually producing, like raising funds on your behalf. What is very, again, not shocking, but why peer-to-peer fundraising is so successful is because when they interview donors who participate in fundraising, a peer-to-peer fundraising campaign, they say that 56% of them are likely to give if asked by someone they know, right? So people are willing to support peer-to-peer fundraising campaigns if it's coming from family, friends, and so on. I actually just had this opportunity a week ago where one of my mentors think he's running marathon and with this nonprofit, and he shared his page. And I didn't really know much about their organization, but I really wanted to support his, what he's doing and the initiative. So me, along with many other people, supported his fundraising page. And that just tells me if it wasn't for him, I'm definitely this 56%. If it wasn't for him, I would probably never even come across the organization. But because I had this personal connection, it was very easy. I didn't give, it's a small donation, but the power is in community. The more people support those pages, the bigger the impact. So there's definitely um, a lot of opportunities there. And last but not least, returning participants raise more than first-time participants. Well, that's not surprising, right? We can expect that. But I think the number is quite telling, is 2.5% more. So peer-to-peer is definitely not an initiative that we want to have one time and then be like, okay, well, we tried it, we'll move to something else. There isn't a compounding effect. And year after year, as your fundraisers return to support your organization, that fundraising number only keep growing. So that's what we see in the industry. And Hannah, I know you've done some research and look at some campaigns, so I'm curious to hear from your perspective.
Yes, absolutely. I love this topic too. I could talk on and on about it. It's just one of the most powerful things that we see across affiliates is really that peer-to-peer fundraising. So I'm excited to share this with you all. I think the key is that peer-to-peer success doesn't just happen because you launch the campaign. The success happens when you activate your participants. And so I was reviewing some of our Women Build campaigns, and I came across one with 33 teams. And out of those 33 teams, only one team failed to raise a donation. So that's a 97% activation rate, which is
Wow.
huge. And the average donation that was raised per participant in that campaign was around
Mm.
$360. So not only was it like incredibly high activation, but also just a really high average raised per participant as well. I was looking at another, and this campaign, another Women Build, had 331 participants,
Oh,
and
wow.
their activation was actually a tiny bit lower, but their average donation, average amount raised was much higher. It was $406. So again, just really great impact here. And I'm excited to talk about what I think the difference in all of these campaigns is, what really does make that difference. So, firstly, I think, like we spoke about, participants that come back year after year. In the first Women Build campaign that I touched on, this team has a incredibly loyal supporter base, and they have participants that come back year after year. As we know from the industry data, participants who are returning and participating each year are able to raise 2.5 times more, and that really shows. But I think what else is interesting, this team talks a lot about this as well, is that it also just their campaign operations flow so much smooth, like so smooth. They have volunteers and participants who come back year after year. People know exactly where to go, exactly how to sign up and how to get donations. And so this team really describes their Women Build as running itself, which I think is great too. But I know that's not always the case. And if you don't have supporters who know exactly what to do, come back every year, it's even more important to really build that momentum and help fundraisers be successful. So this is where the final point comes in. Some things that I've seen across our affiliates that help really kick things off, a kickoff party to build excitement. Also automated emails and texts, keyword here, automated, happening as soon as the person is signing up. Clear instructions are going out to teach them how to edit their page, how to share with their network, what they can do for next steps. All these things are really providing a structure that drives so much success around these events. So I'm really excited to share on the next slide here just a couple of strategies as well. So, team fundraising, team members raise about 70% more than solo participants. And this is because teams are tapping into their shared networks. So, if I know 5 people and Yulia knows 5 people, we're already at 10 people versus just my smaller network. So, it's just expanding that audience exponentially, which I think is huge. And then it's also, a good, healthy social pressure amongst participants within that team. So it's a little friendly competition, but things like having leaderboards on the campaign pages, goals, progress bars, things like that are really gonna help increase donations as well and increase activation among participants. Another great strategy to use is to engage within days of registration. So, not a week later, within really moments, the sooner that you can engage your participants, um, the more momentum that you can build. So, if someone signs up and doesn't hear anything for a week, that momentum really starts to drop off versus if you're able to send them a welcome series and again teaching them how to personalize their page and send their first ask, it's really going to help increase their momentum and efforts towards the campaign. And then lastly, incentives and gamification. It's amazing what people will do for a t-shirt. So even something as small as a t-shirt at $100 can really increase participation and results. I think that all of these strategies, what they have in common is this is not just like a fundraising tactic. This is not just a fundraising strategy, but it's bigger than that. And it really is more thinking about it as a community building strategy.
Wonderful. And then one thing I'm gonna add, Hannah, because I feel like sometimes people have like, oh, well, this is the big affiliate and they have this big, women build or this big initiative versus sometimes, well, we might not have the resources and so on and so forth. I think the example that you were giving, at the beginning of the Boone County Habitat that have 33 teams, I think they've been doing it for 12 years, right? And it grew year after year. I'm sure they didn't start at 33 teams, or maybe they did. But I think there is an opportunity for that, not only for like large affiliates, but for quite smaller affiliates as well. And we did a case study actually about their women build. So we have
Mhm.
Tara also in the background. Tara, if you can hear me, I don't know, maybe we can post a link to the case study if anyone is interested to learn about, peer-to-peer women build experience by a smaller team and how they structure their programs. I think that's a really wonderful piece of content if anyone wants to dive in a little bit more. Wonderful. Well, thank you. But we are moving next, and can you imagine, we still have three more key trends. Time is just flying by, but I think we're going to go a little bit faster here. So our next trend is donor retention drives long-term revenue. All right. So your donor retention, right? It's just all about keeping the love alive after the first gift. Many first is, as you all know, that many first donations are unfortunately transactional. So it may be someone just came to the event or got invited to the event. It can be someone supported peer-to-peer campaign and memory of someone and so on, where donors not necessarily formed a strong connection with your organization, but more so they had a reason, right, to support the specific initiative, event, or campaign. So too often, nonprofits will put so much energy into securing the donation, but then they just move on because work is busy, life is busy, right? And you don't have maybe necessarily resources to follow up with every single person. But as we know, retention is so much cheaper than acquisition. So what do we see in the overall industry is less than 20% of first-time donors typically give again, right? So there's a huge opportunity of changing those numbers. 65% retention after the second gift. So if the donor did renew their gift for the second time, after that, they're like 2, 3 times more likely to give again. So making sure that it's not one-time give, but at least 2 times already increases the opportunity for future giving tremendously. And then just the mix of both, right? And recurring gifts, like overall retention within nonprofits in 2024 was at 42%. Now, let's take a look at what it is within our affiliate network.
Yes, and I think there's a big opportunity here. We see around 35% for our donor retention rate.
Mm,
And I think this can be a lot of different reasons, but I know that there isn't always a structured follow-up plan after the first time gift. And we know that that retention improves when donors feel acknowledged, when they feel informed and also just invited back to the story. So I think that affiliates who have that clear post-donation journey, even something simple like a 3 to 4 email series, we consistently see stronger second gifts. And I think that second gift really is the turning point.
mm,
Once someone gives twice, their likelihood of becoming a long-term supporter increases significantly. And so while 35% is the average that we're seeing, I think that there is still a real opportunity in building systems that intentionally are getting people to give again and to boost retention.
mm. Yeah, thank you for that. And I think, again, this is the topic that there is webinars dedicated to this
Mhm.
topic, and there are so many different strategies that can be implemented. We wanted just to share a couple. Hopefully, this will be, something that you can take and implement right away. But I think the three main key thing that we see as a big opportunity that frequently is underutilized, not only for Habitat, but for everyone, right, that we work with, is one is new donor receive an immediate thank you, right? So not just a tech receipt automated, but ideally it should be something that personalized because they're first time givers. So if for larger gifts, we would recommend a phone call, but if a smaller gift and so on, it can be, something just not necessarily fully personalized, right? But it can be special template that can go out to them to make that first gift a little bit more special. And then I think extremely important the follow up over the next 12 months. So creating a 12-month stewardship patch plan is the key. And the automation there is the key as well, right? So you most likely already have your plan. You might consider different plans, something that we're suggesting. It's not necessarily a heavy lift. It can be like 5 touch points over the next 12 months, but it starts with your thank you letter, with let's say, a photo of the home they helped to build with their gift. Then maybe a couple months later, we're following up with the um, homeowner story, right? Sharing how their life changed and so on. Again, no ask, more educational content there. Then we're suggesting a small donation or another way how this one-time donor can get in touch and become a support of your organization, whether it's donation, it's your monthly giving program, or it's a volunteering opportunity and so on. And then the fourth touch point, right? Inviting them to build site, virtual tour to see the impact, you name it. It can be something also along those lines. And then lastly, right, asking them to personalize note to renew their support for the next year. So the key here again is automation. We understand that you have a lot of different priorities, right? Competing priorities and things always happening. So doing this, manually is probably, unless it's maybe a higher tier donor or something like that is quite challenging. So that's where your technology can support you in that. Again, it doesn't have to be super personalized. I think the power is in repetition and in the consistent touch point over the period of 6 or 12 months. So in our case, we're suggesting people to build what we call workflows. You can set up, automated sequences, and you can do it, I'm pretty sure, in any email marketing platforms now, other platforms as well. So lots of opportunities. I think with technology is just like learning how it can be set up, that you can set it and forget it. So it's not, well, don't forget about it, but it will be how you don't need to check on it every day. Like how can you set up some templates and actions, right? When the new donor donates, that whole touch point series happened automatically. I think that just takes so much pressure from your shoulders. And you always have an opportunity to check how it's going. Do they open it? And then maybe add something personalized in the middle, like a phone call or something else. But that's, high level recommendation for this donor retention section. And we are going to, again, one of my favorites, volunteers as donors in waiting. So we have two more things to discuss before we jump into the Q&A part. So if you have any questions as we go, please feel free to put them in the chat. But our next key trend, again, volunteers and donors in waiting. I think this trend is especially important for Habitat affiliates because your mission is just so it's all about engaging volunteers, right? Whether it's a build site, it's a restore, board members, right, who also volunteers and so on. And your volunteers are the most committed donors and or donor prospects, right? So the first statistics I want to share with you that 85% volunteers also donate to nonprofit. And to be honest, when I look at it, it seems so high. But it's a real data based on global trends in giving. So there are organizations who are able to achieve these levels of support. I think a lot of time we're hesitant to make an extra ask for volunteers because they already dedicate so much time and other resources for our organization. But just know that a lot of volunteers are willing to do it. And sometimes by not asking, we are missing opportunities. There's another example where organization was in quite challenging situation and they made an ask to their volunteers, and 55% of volunteers accounted for donors during dips. So again, in case of more so like emergency, they were able to communicate that with volunteers and they step in as donors and supported organization in this new capacity. And the last one, it's not necessarily a statistic, but I am curious to ask everyone a question. I'm curious, do you know what is your volunteer to donor conversion? And the reason I'm asking it because most of the time, I ask this question at the conferences or when I speak to nonprofits and affiliates, and a lot of time it's like, it's not necessarily something that teams can share. So just curious if everyone and anyone knows, please feel free to put the number in the chat. Wait for a second, or we can take a look later. But if not, that's okay too. And Hannah will share what data do we have across our
Mhm.
network.
Yeah, I think something I hear often, you already shared this, Yulia, but really, a lot of affiliates are hesitant to ask their volunteers for donations because they feel like they're already giving their time, right? And that's completely understandable. But I do think it's so interesting that the research shows that a vast majority of volunteers are willing and already do donate to the nonprofits that they volunteer for. Um, Among our affiliates, we see a really big opportunity to convert volunteers to donors. So, on average, we only see about a 10% volunteer to donor conversion rate. And less than 20% of volunteer campaigns, those, separate sign up pages to allow people to sign up for their volunteer opportunities, less than 20% of them have a donate button present on the page. That's, of course, something that they can customize, but we don't see a ton of people adding that donate button. And I think that those are some missed moments. When someone raises their hand to volunteer, they're already signaling that they're aligned with your mission. They are saying, I care about this. And so something as simple as giving them the chance to donate on that volunteer page can turn something that started as their initial enthusiasm to volunteer into something that's more tangible, or not more tangible, but that's additional tangible support. So it's a small ask, but I think it does really meet them where they already are. And then lastly, something that we again see a really big opportunity here are the automated post-volunteer surveys and follow-up communications. These are remaining underutilized. So for a lot of our organizations, the volunteer experience kind of ends where that volunteer shift ends. So, there isn't always a thank you email that's thanking them or reinforcing impact, or providing like a short survey to hear a little bit more about their experience. And so I think that post-volunteer window is also really powerful because it's when someone feels the most connected and when they're most likely to really take that next step. Every time I volunteer, I feel like so enthusiastic and passionate about what I've just done. And so I think that's a really key opportunity to then turn it into a follow-up and take that next step.
Love that.
So we can jump into some strategies here. So I think first, instead of viewing volunteer programs and fundraising as separate efforts altogether, just starting to view them as a really connected part of the same donor journey and making it a really strategic focus for your organization. Already just taking that mindset of having them as two separate programs and thinking them as one opportunity is already going to start to shift things. Um, and secondly, my second recommendation here is to add a donate button to your volunteer campaigns or add a donate button where available. Since volunteers are already engaged, that again, that makes them one of the strongest potential donor audiences. And it doesn't have to be anything crazy. Here on this page, you can see on the Veterans Build, there's a volunteer button, and then right below it, there's also a donate button. So it's not anything that feels very pushy. It's just, again, an opportunity. And that might be a missed opportunity if that button wasn't there. They should have the visible option to be able to give. So I've seen some language too on other pages like can't volunteer, help support instead. I think that's really great messaging as well, or help cover the cost of the materials for your shift, things like that just help encourage people to give. And lastly, again, where we see so much opportunity is creating the automated post-volunteer follow-up. So some examples of that would be sending people a survey. I know, Yulia, you had it pulled up on your screen for just a moment there. This is one of our affiliates who sends out a volunteer experience survey after each one of their shifts. Again, it's an automated process. So as soon as that person it checks out of their shift a day later, they're going to get this volunteer experience survey. And I think this is so powerful because it shows that you really care about their experience and how volunteering felt for them. And it also is giving you a lot of data to be able to provide a better volunteer experience. You know, that it's so nice to be able to hear directly from your volunteers of what would you like to see different or how was your volunteer experience, and then make changes off of those things. And then I think from here, you could take it a step further and invite them to take the next step, whether that's another volunteer opportunity, you know, volunteering again, or maybe making a donation as well.
Wow, love it. Fantastic. And I think one of the things I remember hearing from that Habitat affiliate as well, they actually do follow up with every single, I think, response. So it's not
Mhm.
just collecting the data, really taking the next step into, improving the experience and so on for their volunteers. Lovely. All right. So last but not least, we have email and SMS. Personalization matters. We'll make it brief for the matter of time, but the few key points that we wanted to make there is, unfortunately, like batch and blast emails are yielding less and less revenue percent. So again, according to the data in 2024, there was $58 raised per 1,000 fundraising emails, and this number actually decreased quite a lot in comparison to previous year when it was $78. So what actually seen across the nonprofit sector, while emails is still great, I'm not in by no means say like don't say the emails. Email is fantastic. Email still help fundraising strategy, but the impact is decreasing. Where on the other hand, where we see that the impact of SMS communication is increasing. So for the same 1,000 text messages, the amount raised is actually around $92, again, which is almost double the in comparison with the email. And we've definitely seen a huge shift and the growth into the text to give fundraising strategies in comparison with the email. And then also, again, I think we see it even in the consumer industry as well. Like every time you go to a different website, right? It's like sign up for text messages to receive this discount and get this or that. Like it becoming a part of our life to be signed up for all of this like text messages. Also, it will be interesting to see where it's all going. But for now, it's actually been helpful. And what is seen is 8% increase in text messaging list. So people are signing up for now. Again, we'll see what's happened in the future. Um, and I think, Hannah, I'm gonna just like summarize here as well. We see the similar things across affiliates and our network as well. We see half of them using SMS from communications to both donors and volunteers. We see advanced segmentation going on for both messaging and emails, and definitely personalization is still important. Everybody talk about personalization, but it's something that there is still a lot of opportunities and we're not necessarily there yet. All right. We have a couple of recommendations here is definitely take a look at SMS if that's something you haven't implemented yet. Consider segmentation, different appeals for your donors, volunteers, major donors, and so on. And then again, automation. We spoke a little bit about it, so I'll skip it here. But automation, and if you can create those sequences that go out without your participation, that's definitely a huge win. With this being said, I know we only have a couple of minutes. Oh my goodness, this was such a fantastic session. And Jessica, I'll pass it to you if you have any questions. We have maybe a couple of minutes.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much to Yulia and to Hannah for being with us today. We do have about 3 minutes for questions. I know we're running a little close to time. If anyone has questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. And like I said when we started, I'm also going to share this with all of our attendees today. And if Yulia and Hannah are comfortable with it, I can also share their contact information if you think of any follow-up, in the coming days or weeks.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jessica. And again, feel free to put your comment in, questions into the chat. But in the meantime, also while we're waiting for the questions, couple of opportunities we just wanted to share. We have another session, which is going to be a quicker 30-minute session coming up next week. Why nonprofit tech decisions stall and how leaders break through. My colleague Tara will put a link in the chat to sign up if you guys are interested. So feel free. We'll love to have you there as well. So please feel free to join. And then we also have really incredible opportunity coming up in Q2. So we as Giveffect will be launching a free platform. It's going to be a free fundraising platform that we're launching in partnership with TechSoup, but we're also going to have a special access for Habitat affiliates. So if that's something you just want to hear more about, interested to learn more about, there is a interest link to leave your information if you want to learn more about. But again, please feel free to sign up. We'd love to have you there. And if you ever want to connect with us, Jessica will share our information, and we'll also have a link in the chat as well if you would like to connect and talk more about any of the strategies or, just share best practices.
Awesome. Thank you so much again. I haven't seen anything come through in the chat. So I think, like I said, what I'll do is just share contact information. We can all follow up afterwards. We would love to hear questions, best practices, anything you'd like to share regarding what we heard today. I think this was such a rich session, and I'm so glad that we got to be a part of it. So thank you again to Hannah and Yulia.
Thank you so much, Jessica, Roxanne, Habitat for Humanity in Florida, and we hope, to be back one day or have more productive conversation. Everyone have a fantastic week, and looking forward to see impact of each of your affiliates in 2026, and we hope this session was helpful for you.
Yes. Thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.